Center. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning.
It's always a pleasure to have you in studio.
Thank you.
So you've got, a sculpt here of what I know to be the spine, but we'll just want to find out, when we talk about scoliosis, that big name, that scary name, what exactly is it?
So when we talk about scoliosis, we're talking about the sideways or lateral abnormal curvature of the spine. So when you look at the spine from the front, on a normal spine, you should have a straight view.
Okay.
But with scoliosis, there's an abnormal curve that goes to the side.
Okay.
And so it looks kind of like this. You can have it from the neck into the mid-back area, or from the neck all the way down into the lower back area, and it comes with a lot of complications too.
Right. So how does one develop the scoliosis? Are you born with it, or do you acquire it along the way?
So we call something idiopathic, meaning that for most people who have scoliosis, there's no known cause. So outside of having an accident or a fall or another disease, we can't pinpoint what could have caused the scoliosis. So we call it idiopathic. And then there's those who may have been born with it. So congenital scoliosis, and it may have been as a result of a birth injury or something that happened very, very soon after birth that could lead to the scoliosis as well.
Is it something that is passed on through families? And so if my mother had it, would I necessarily have it as well?
The research is showing that in few cases, not the majority, scoliosis can be passed on as well.
So supposing I'm born with scoliosis, like you mentioned, there are some complications that could arise from that. How would that impact on the, life of the individual, the quality of it?
So a lot of the time, scoliosis is not too much of a problem in that it may not give too much pain or disability. It can be maintained. So depending on the degree of the scoliosis, we have what we call a Cobb angle, which we use to calculate how severe the scoliosis is. Between 1 and about 20, most people can live with it comfortably and not have too many complications. Then we have from 20 to about 35, 40, where it's more severe. And this is where it starts to affect the organs. For instance, if it's really severe in the chest area, where your heart and the lungs are, anywhere 30 plus of the Cobb angle, it can impinge on those organs. And then anywhere 40 plus, that's the most severest type of scoliosis. Sometimes those people have to undergo surgery to prevent any complications with your organs.
Right. So for those that are congenital, it seems you just have to manage it. But for those that we acquire along the line, are there any attributable things that we can do or modify so that we don't, have scoliosis?
Right. So especially in children, we want to look at their posture, because the spine is still malleable when you're a child, and how you treat it is what will determine how healthy your spine is. So we want kids, for instance, to keep light school bags, to watch their posture when they're sitting in class and things like that. And then as adults, the way we sit in the office, ergonomics comes to play, the way we pick up things. All those things can have an effect on the spine. And then also, once you start having signs of pain or posture imbalances, a lot of the times people just ignore it. And then as it gets worse, people start to assume certain positions for pain relief, and that, if not controlled, can lead into scoliosis as well.
But you mentioned how we bend down to pick items, which is a very, common thing in Ghana, because you're being asked to pick a bucket of water, and even in our secondary schools where you had to carry water and literally balance it along a long stretch.
Right.
How best would you advise that we carry water?
So I recommend that you carry 2 small buckets instead of 1 heavy bucket, because what happens is when you're holding the bucket on one side, when it's too heavy, you end up bending one way. So if you have to do this every day, all day for X amount of years, it can have an effect on your spine. So it's best you have 2 small buckets and that of about even weight. That way you're balanced in the center.
Nice. That gives us a picture of a being balanced. Where
exactly.
There's equal weights on both
exactly.
sides. But I mean, so in the event that you have scoliosis, what can Nova Wellness do to help you?
So we focus on the natural, structural way of correcting scoliosis, especially in children. So right up until about 15 years of age, when the bones haven't fused yet and the bones are still developing. If the degree is up to about 20-25, we've had great results with correcting it because the spine is still growing. So the chiropractic adjustments, there are stretches that we do. We call something the foam roller, which we're able to use to straighten the spine, literally. So long as you're not in the advanced stage of scoliosis, absolutely, especially in children, we can correct scoliosis with the chiropractic adjustments and other therapeutic exercises. And even in adults, because the thing with scoliosis is that it typically gets worse slowly. So if it's not caught in childhood, but even in adulthood, if you leave it, then by the time you was 50, 60, it would have been way more advanced. So we have therapies and the chiropractic adjustments that we do that would help maintain it and prevent it from getting worse.
So from what you're saying, I would like to reassure people out there watching, it doesn't necessarily mean you'd always need surgery to correct it, because you know Ghanaians are oftentimes afraid of coming to the doctor because you'd say, I'm taking you to theater.
Exactly. No. Scoliosis can be controlled, especially if it's caught early. That's the biggest problem, because in children, when they complain about pain, a lot of guardians and parents will say, it's nothing, you grow out of it. Sometimes they do grow out of it, but sometimes they don't. So my advice is, don't just overlook it. If your child or if somebody's complaining about pain persistently, then you obviously want to have them checked properly. And a lot of the times it can be controlled or maintained. And then another thing that I strongly recommend is swimming. Swimming is an excellent exercise for people who have scoliosis, because it brings balance to all the back muscles as opposed to other exercises which may work out only certain areas. So if you have scoliosis, you've been diagnosed of it, or sometimes there are some signs that you want to look out for. Maybe you realize that your shoulders are not balanced, or you realize that we call something a rib hump. So one of your shoulder blades may be popping out more. That's also another sign. Or your hips may also be uneven. All those are signs of possible scoliosis. So if you've seen that on your child, on your significant other, or somebody at work, then it's very, very important that they are evaluated immediately, so that if we can help them, we go ahead and do that.
Very well. I'd like to say a very big thank you for teaching us about scoliosis and how to at least prevent it, but also if you have it already, how to manage it. You do want to visit Nova